Hi. My name is Ethan Black, and I just wanted to make this video for those of people who know me, for friends and family who know me, to kind of give a little bit of a life update. And for those who don't, just to give a message. It's mainly just stuff I kind of want to just verbalize and get out. Starting as a disclaimer, not most, but a lot of the things that I'm going to mention in this recording are not necessarily fun topics, and some of them can be triggering for people who have gone through any sort of mental health or anything like that. And so just before I go into talking about it, I wanted to kind of set out that guideline, not guideline, but just that disclaimer for you. A short recap for those of you who don't know. Last year in 2025, I, around spring, started to encounter some minor physical issues and symptoms. And over the course of like 2-ish months, they went from minor to severe. And it reached a point where I couldn't work anymore. My physical limitations, it brought me to a place where the amount of pain that I was in and the lack of mobility that I had, I couldn't work. I couldn't barely do anything. It affected my body, my voice, everything that I needed for my job as a performer. And so because of that, I went on this journey starting halfway through the year to start working on my physical brokenness. And as I went from doctor to specialist to all over the place, trying to work on the physical aspects of everything, having that time to step away from work finally brought in a lot of the emotional and the mental brokenness that I've either subconsciously or intentionally tried to ignore for the majority of my life. And it all finally caught up with me in the past couple of months. And so that brings me here. So I have these papers that I've kind of written out bullet points of what I wanted to say, just to kind of keep me on track. So I'm going to try to keep this as quick as I can, while also just trying to be as open and honest as I can. Usually I'm pretty open about my past struggles, and I love telling people about the things that I've gone through in the past to kind of help bring encouragement, but I usually only like talking about it when I'm on the other side of it. And so the main reason for this recording is to kind of take a snapshot while I'm in the middle of the issues and the struggles and everything that's happening, instead of waiting to the end to be able to tell a motivating and incredible testimony and story about how God delivered me through this issue, or how I found peace and all of this salvation in the middle of all this hardship. Talking about the trials that I've been able to fight through, and I've made it to the other side. I've never really been open about my present struggles because I hate admitting the fact that I am struggling with something, and the fact that I am, in some senses, I'm weak. That's a really hard thing for my brain to kind of wrap itself around. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but this is to mainly just be open and honest about all of it, more so to myself than anyone else watching. Yeah, and so that's kind of why I'm recording this video. I want to use the pain that I've experienced to motivate, to help create healthy change. It's been the worst season of my life, easily, but through this time, I really want to be able to use this experience that I found to be able to hopefully bring some semblance of peace to other people who are maybe going through the same thing. Right now I have nothing to give to help out with this, and I'm still working on all my own stuff, but the one thing I do have is this. This one insight, which is that I believe hardship, pain, and suffering can produce what I believe is the most powerful and incredible parts of the human experience. I think it produces genuine understanding and empathy, giving us the ability to truthfully say the words that I get it, that I've been there, and that I know what it feels like. When this is said without truth to back it up or experience, it can be actually really irritating and discouraging to hear other people saying it, because they don't necessarily know exactly what it's like to go through. But every now and again, when you have someone that's just truthful, open, and honest, who is able to say that at your side when you are in the middle of pain and suffering, It eliminates that lie that we all can reach, that we're alone in our pain, that we're the only ones experiencing what it is that we're going through. And so that's why I think pain is so powerful in so many ways, but it's able to create that empathy that allows for healing and for community to happen. And with that being said, that's why I'm recording this, to say that I get it and that I've been there. Now, I'm only, I just turned 20 years old, so there's still so much that I haven't gone through, and there's still a lot of things that I don't think what I'm going to say here is going to necessarily resonate with everyone's life experience, but I'm here to say this. I know what it feels like to feel like the only different person in my family and to feel wrong for that. I know what it feels like to be held back in grades in school because my brain just couldn't catch up and work like everyone else's. I know what it feels like to think that I'm stupid and to think that I'm dumb. I know what it feels like to spend over 7 years and nights of nights hyperventilating in my bed with nightmares as a kid. I know what it feels like to have an older friend that I idolized and trusted shatter my worldview and what I thought was safe by sexually abusing me as a child. I know what it feels like to ruin multiple relationships through the years with girls that I thought were incredible and I genuinely thought I'd spend the rest of my life with, and I ended up hurting them instead because of unresolved trauma. I know what it feels like for the fear of making the wrong decision or to do something wrong to steer every decision I've made, and to make even simple daily decisions feel massive and impossible to be able to decide. I know what it feels like to feel weak, small, and worthless. I know what it feels like to deal with generational strongholds. I know what it feels like to feel self-conscious about the acne on my face and on my body. I know what it feels like to feel abandoned and unprotected. I know what it feels like to have all of my family and friends tell me that they love me and that they care about me, and never being able to feel like it was actually true or like I was worth their love. I know what it feels like to think that I'm always letting people down and always have that fear just going on in the back of my brain. I know what it feels like to go months and even years without being able to cry. And on the other hand, I used to know what it felt like to just start uncontrollably crying at the drop of a dime. I know what it feels like to watch sexual content to escape the pain that I'm feeling and the stress of a moment. I know what it feels like to have an eating disorder and to lose over 20 pounds because of my fears linked with food and how my body looked in that moment. I know what it feels like to be so anxious that I collapse on the ground in fetal position, unable to function for hours on end. I know what it feels like to have a body that goes from being able to deadlift over 200 pounds and bench press more than my own body weight, and a body that can flip and jump and dance and do anything, to barely being able to stand on my own 2 feet without major assistance and without incredible chronic pain, or being able even just to lie down in my bed without having crazy chronic pain going through my spine, my legs, and my neck, and to have every single doctor and specialist tell me they have no idea why. I know what it feels like to never be able to be in the same room with my dad without one of us starting an argument. I know what it feels like to feel far, abandoned, and unloved by God. I know what it feels like to have crippling perfectionism and OCD drive my life and color every decision that I make. I know what it feels like to spend so much time pushing through life that I don't know what my favorite color is, my favorite food is, or even what I like to do in my own free time. I know what it's like to spend every day working without stopping or without any breaks so I can feel worthy of love and I can feel like I can justify being alive in that day. I know what it feels like to have so much anger bursting out of me that it feels like I have adrenaline shots. I know what it feels like to cuss out a family member and to punch a hole in the wall because of my own anger. I know what it feels like to judge the person across from me because I thought I was more spiritual than them, or because I felt like I had been through worse seasons than they have and they just needed to toughen up. I know what it feels like to feel the anxiety of looking at a near empty bank account because of an unexpected car crash and medical bills that cleaned out what I had saved. I know what it feels like to be jealous of a coworker because if they can do the same job that I can but better, then what worth do I have? I know what it feels like to compromise on my morals for a moment of pleasure with a partner to distract myself from the stress and the pain of life. I know what it feels like to go from someone that was known for living out a Christian lifestyle to being someone whose doubts of his own faith and what I believed in were so strong that they led to an existential spiral that lasted for months and still affects me to today. I know what it feels like to have a grudge and to be angry with God and to yell and to scream and to curse his name and to blame him for every hardship that I've experienced. I know what it feels like I know what the feel of an addiction, I know what it feels like to have the pull of an addiction towards a substance to take away from the stress and the pain of a moment. I know what it feels like to feel the anxiety from the mountain of a to-do list. I know what it feels like to wait for hours on hold trying to figure out a doctor appointment just to be told that they can't help me. I know what it feels like to be made fun of for liking something that some people thought was weird or dumb. I know what it feels like to compare myself to others and for that comparison to steal all of my joy and any sort of confidence that I had in myself. I know what it feels like to make progress and to gain hope just for some sort of tailspin or steps back to take away all of that hope. I know what it feels like to finally have a physical symptom heal just for another one to take its place, and for that process, that repeated process, to repeat and to go on for years. I know what it feels like to go to all of the specialists, to get all the scans, the blood tests, to spend huge amounts of money just to be told that they don't know anything and that I just have to try another specialist. Or maybe I just need to accept the fact that it's always going to be like this. I know what it feels like to force myself to grow up and to skip my childhood and teen years because I hated who I was and what I was going through. And I thought by just killing that old version of me and being an adult would fix all my problems. Now, just to realize that I never allowed myself to actually be a kid. I know what it feels like to never be able to enjoy a weekend because I'm always too stressed and on high alert of what's coming. I know what it feels like to subconsciously tailor everything in my personality so I can meet what I feel like is that person's expectations and so I can be accepted by them. I know what it feels like for a game or for trying something new to send me into a tailspin. Because something like losing a game or failing at trying something new, it reinforces all of the subconscious ideas that I've already believed about myself, that I'm worthless and that I'm never going to be enough. I know what it feels like for discipline and for routine to take over my life. So instead of living, I'm just following the compulsion that's telling me I have to do that thing. I know what it feels like to feel sad, angry, and depressed, and to feel like I have no reason why. I know what it feels like for my intention to become closer to God to become a compulsion that I have to do all of these things, and if I don't, then I'm not spiritual enough or I'm not good enough for God's love. I know what it feels like to never want to compromise in an argument, because if I do, even if it's a stupid argument, it reinforces the idea that I already have about myself, and linking my being wrong in that argument to being wrong in life, and inextricably linking the idea that me being wrong in that argument equals me being worthless. I know what it feels like to not want to let go of my anger, my sadness, and the grudges that I feel, because if I do, it disregards how much pain I'm feeling in that moment and how much pain I felt in the past. And within this past month of January, I know what it feels like to be so depressed or tired that I just never want to leave my bed. I know what it feels like to be so disappointed and angry at myself that I subconsciously deny myself the allowance to enjoy any relationships or any simple joys because I feel like I don't deserve them. I know what it feels like to have crippling social anxiety because I'm terrified to let my friends and strangers and even family members see me the way that I see myself, and to let down those masks that I've held up for so long. I know what it feels like to put up a mask for so long and to pretend to be a person that I feel like I need to be, or the person that I feel like people want me to be, and to do that for so long that I lose my own identity and sense of self. I know what it feels like to go on medication because the anxiety is too much to handle on my own. I know what it feels like to realize that all of the hobbies, interests, and personality traits in some way or form have just been coping mechanisms that I've subconsciously used to get through the majority of my life. I know what it feels like to forget how to smile. I know what it feels like to go to a therapist and admit that I can't do it and I can't fix all of my problems on my own. I know what it feels like to be physically abused. I know what it feels like to be emotionally manipulated. I know what it feels like to genuinely think that the gospel applies to everyone except for me. I know what it feels like to never be able to escape all of the self-deprecating voices in my mind that play on a constant repeat and are so loud and so overwhelming that they make my head feel like it's about to burst. I know what it feels like to think I'll never be enough for God, for my family, or even for myself. I know what it feels like to be hopeless and to remember how painful the past has been and to think about how awful the future could be. I know what it feels like to be tired of choosing to keep getting up after life knocks me down over and over again. I know what it feels like to think that happiness and peace is some hopeless pipe dream. I know what it feels like to be tired of every day being a fight and a struggle. I know what it feels like to feel like there's no way out of the pain and to see no hope or no escape. I know what it feels like to go asleep hoping and praying that I won't wake up, thinking that the world would just be better without me. I know what it feels like to cover my arms, my legs, my torso, and my back in cuts and gashes, because the pain of an X-Acto blade is easier to deal with than the pain and the agony of the screaming thoughts in my own head and mind and heart. I know what it feels like to later then scratch open all of those cuts and those gashes to keep them from healing, because having those scars makes me feel like my pain is real and that I'm not crazy. I know what it feels like to reach such a mental breakdown to the point where I'm writhing, crying, and screaming on the floor, banging my head and limbs into the ground, wishing it would end. I know what it feels like to plan to crash my car and to overdose in hopes that I won't survive it. I know what it feels like to lunge for a kitchen knife, yelling, "Kill me," as my family pins me to the ground, keeping me from killing myself, and for them to keep me down there for hours as I continually try to push back, yelling, screaming, flailing, covered in my own tears and snot. I know what it feels like to go to a mental hospital, because I was a danger to myself and to everybody around me. I know what it feels like to give up that control and to admit I can't win this fight alone. Pain, in my opinion, is one of the greatest catalysts and one of the greatest forces for change. And that change can go one of two ways. Pain can either bring us together as people, as humans, as a community, or it can push us apart. It kind of depends on what we allow it to do. Pain can either harden our heart, it can make us bitter, it can make us angry, and it can make us do things that we never thought we'd do and say things that we never thought we'd say. Or it can soften our heart. It can produce empathy. It can allow us to see the world around us and open our eyes to the pain that's around us, allowing us to be there for the people that are around us. And I'm no one to judge because I've been in both of those places. So all this to say, ask yourself, the pain that you've gone through in your life, whether you feel like it's resolved or not, just ask yourself the question, how has that pain affected you? How has it changed you? How have you allowed it to change you? Those are the questions that I've been kind of forced to ask myself recently. And I found healing in it. And I found some hope in it. And I encourage others to do the same. Here's what I know. Pain is universal. Throughout all of the differences that we have in our lives, whether it's through political views, it's through what we see in terms of our religious views or lack thereof, whether it's through race, life experience, social standing, no matter what it is, we can all relate on the level that we've all been hurt. We've all experienced sadness. We've all cried. We've all experienced loss. And so if there's one thing that is universal beyond all other things, it's that we've all experienced pain. We've all been at some place. We've all had our own darkest day. Something that I know, at least for me, is something that I think of a lot, and for some people watching, is that the worst day that we can have is a relative term. And I don't mean that in a philosophical sense, saying that pain is relative. To a certain extent it can be, but I know for me, if I was watching this video, I would think that my pain isn't anywhere close to being what that person has experienced. Or maybe on the opposite end, maybe my pain that I've experienced is just the tip of the iceberg of what you watching have experienced. And with that being said, at the end of the day, we've all had what we feel is our worst day on earth. We all know what it's like to experience those days that are just the absolute worst. And even though comparatively, maybe my day might not be as bad as yours, or maybe my day is worse than anything you've ever experienced, We've all experienced those days that we in our minds thought this is the worst it can possibly be. And so instead of wearing our pain like a badge that keeps us trapped in our own world, I encourage us to let our pain cultivate an empathy that can transcend all of our differences, that can unite us as a people, despite any sort of beliefs that we have. To stick our hand out and to help because there's strength in pain. Not because we've been through all of this hardship and so now we're bulletproof and nothing can hurt us, but because pain gives us the ability to say, I get it. And I've been there and I know what it's like. And so in that pain and in that weakness, it can unite us because we know what it feels like. And we can stick out our hands saying, I'm hurting too. So although we're both hurting, let's figure out a way to become healthy together. Let's create a community that's rooted in honesty and that's rooted in compassion. I believe that recently, especially recently, in the world that we live in today, it's so common for us to acknowledge the pain that's there. For a lot of Christian circles, it's not, because we're too blessed to be stressed. And so we suppress and push down the pain and the trauma that we might have experienced, because God is good enough to cover all of those issues. And although that is true, we have to acknowledge the pain that's there. Because if we let it just sit and suppress it and let it fester, it's going to come back to bite us, and it's going to be stronger than we ever imagined it could be. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We all want to be seen and heard. We want to be accepted and loved. We want to feel important and feel like we have purpose in this life. We all want to matter. And so, through all of this, I just say, look deeper. Try to look deeper than what's going on the outside. There's so many times where someone might be mean or they might say something, but instead of just taking everything they say at face value, try to go deeper and see maybe what they actually mean. I know for a lot of the time when I lash out, it's because of the insecurity I feel with myself. And I know that's the truth for other people. And I am by no means good at this at all. And it's something I'm still working on. So why am I saying all of this? Because I know what it feels like to hit those darkest moments. I know what it feels like to try to take my own life. I know what it feels like to cut my entire body. I know what it feels like to reach the darkest places that your thoughts can possibly take you. And I know that I'm not the only one that's felt that and experienced that. And so I want to be able to use my pain to help in any way that I can, to be able to make a difference so no one else has to feel the way that I felt, which I know to a certain extent is a rather lofty goal, and I know it's not exactly a possible thing. I know there's going to be hurt. I know there's going to be pain in this world, but anything that I can do to break that lie that someone may have that they're alone, I will do everything, and I want to do everything in my power to do it, while still also maintaining my own health, without sacrificing my own self or my relationship with my family for the betterment of the other people around me. To be able to be healthy and to live a healthy life while encouraging and helping others to do the same. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And the reason I'm doing this is because I know I wouldn't be here if my dad and my brother weren't there to stop me from reaching for the knife. I know if they didn't pin me down when I lunged for it, I know I wouldn't be here. And if my family didn't take me into a mental hospital so I could get the help that I needed, I know that I wouldn't still be here. For my entire life, I always believed the lie that if I just pushed hard enough, if I tried and I gritted my teeth, that I could get through any sort of thing. And that worked for me for a long time. And it helped me push past the sexual abuse, and it helped me push past all of the different things that I struggled with as a kid and as a teenager. But the truth is, I'm not enough on my own. And here's the thing, in the past week, this is something that I've realized, finally, is that I know I wouldn't be here if it wasn't from the support from my family and from my friends. But I know there are other people who are going through the same thing I'm going through, but they aren't as fortunate as I am. I know that they don't necessarily have the same supportive family and friends that I have. If anything, maybe the family and friends are the reason that they are where they are. And so this video that I hope can reach some people, and the list of all the things that I know how it feels, if just one of those resonates with you and allows you to not feel alone, then that is the reason I'm filming this. Here's the thing though. There can't be change if we still have all of our walls up. So I wanted to start all of this off with honesty, and I encourage everybody to do the same. Have honest conversations. Try to see deeper than what's on the surface. The thing is, we're not promised tomorrow. And I've realized that more recently, more than ever. We have to be honest. We have to be open. And instead of just wearing our pain on our sleeve and showing how our pain and the traumas and the abuse from our past has shaped us into who we are today, it doesn't have to be the end. Neurologically, to our brain, neuroplasticity lasts from cradle to grave, and so it's never too late to dig deep into all of the things. I feel like, especially in American culture and especially in Christian culture, we have this idea that to live a good life, we have to try to stay away from any sort of pain or any sort of suffering. And the days that we encounter pain, those are days that are unsuccessful or bad days. I encourage you, with honesty and with a supportive group, dive deep into the pain of your past. Don't suppress it anymore. Don't try to ignore it anymore. Instead of trying to always stay away from the anxiety and fight back, instead of always trying to fight back on the depression, those are signs on your dashboard telling you that there's something wrong. And I have had the luxury and I have had the immense gift in this time to be able to dig deep into all of the pain that I've had, the pain that I've suffered through, and the pain that now is allowing me to experience freedom. At the end of the day, maybe all of this is just ramblings from a kid who wants his pain to make some sense. And I think there's some merit to that, and I think that's true. And I'm no doctor, and I have no authority to tell you what to do with your pain. I am still a mess. And everything that I just listed in terms of all the struggles that I have and everything that I've gone through, I still struggle with them today. Even today and yesterday, I still struggle with lust and the want to use sexual content to numb all the pain that I'm feeling. I know what it's like to have the fear, the crippling fear of knowing what I've done in the past, whether it was to cut up my own body or try to kill myself, and knowing that that's something that I was capable of in the past, and being scared of reaching that place again in the future. And for that fear to grip me and to make me terrified to make any choice or to move forward at all in my future. I had a fight last night with my sister about a stupid argument, and I would not back down from what I thought was right because I didn't want to admit that I was wrong. Because admitting that I was wrong, I felt worthless. I'm still working on all of this. And even now, as I am very slowly experiencing some sort of health, this is still only 2.5 weeks outside of a mental hospital and trying to kill myself and cutting up my entire body and torso. And although the scars are slowly healing and I'm slowly feeling what it's like to have some semblance of freedom and joy and peace again, I am nowhere close to experiencing where I want to be. I think a lot of the time when it comes to our healing journeys, we only want to address our pain and our brokenness to a season where we feel like we can do it in one go and then we're good, we're set, we're whole. And we have this arrival mentality that makes us think that we're just going to be able to get past that thing. Once I finish my struggle with lust, I'll never deal with it again. Once I get past that season of anxiety or that season of depression, I'm good. And then the second we feel it again hit us, it tears us apart because we thought that we had already tackled it. We had already made it past that thing. And the fact that we're dealing with it again means that we failed. I'm here to say that's not the case. Healing is a journey and it lasts our entire lives. And as long as we're on this side of heaven, we're never going to be perfect. So I'm here to say that although I'm learning a lot and I feel a lot of healing happen in my body, I still have scars on my legs, my arms, my torso. I still am terrified to try to live again. I still have so many doubts, and I'm scared to try to get back into practicing Christianity because I still have so much anger towards God and to what I feel like He's allowed to happen to me. But I have people around me that love me and have helped me eradicate the lie that I'm not alone. It doesn't mean that I still don't wrestle with it, and I still don't fight with it, and I still have anxiety, and I still have depression. Medication can only help so much. And there's still so much that I want to say. But the purpose of this video is to just let you know, whoever is watching, you're not alone. And you might not have people in your life specifically who can relate to you and make you feel that way, but I just want you to know that you're not alone. And I can't relate on every experience that you may have. But I know what it's like to feel pain. And I know what it's like to have my own worst day. So let's use that. Let's have that be the bedrock and the foundation of a community that can look past all of our grudges against each other and all of our feuds. And I know I'm not the only person to try to preach, let the love heal all of us, but seriously, let your pain create empathy. Allow yourself to hurt. Allow yourself to feel the pain. And then from that pain, allow it to create empathy to see the people around you. Because when you have that, it creates a chain reaction. And instead of having a bunch of people who hide all of their issues, it creates honest, genuine people that are there for each other, no matter what. Or at least that's what I've experienced so far. I'm still at a place where I have received so much support and so much love, and emotionally, I still can't feel any of it. I still feel numb. But I have been blessed enough to have so many people reach out that I can't deny what's there. And I know that I'm loved. So know that if you're watching this, not if you're watching this, it's not some sort of if you're watching this, then you are loved, but just in general, to everybody watching this, and to everybody not watching this, you are loved. You have value, innate value, that doesn't come from what you do. There is hope. And I'm not going to deny that it doesn't feel like it, and I'm not going to deny that death feels like the only escape. I know what that feels like. But know that somewhere in this world there's someone who can relate, and someone who has been there. So part of this video is just for me to verbally process. The other part of this is hopefully, I hope that this can bring some sort of peace or some sort of hope, or just a realization that you're not alone in this. Thanks for watching and listening this far. I hope you have a wonderful day. And depending on how this goes, I still have so much and so many things that I want to say in more detail, and I only really scratched the surface with all of my own experiences that I want to be able to share, and hopefully through sharing my own experiences in genuine honesty, that can promote others to do the same, and that can connect us as people, as humans. Much love. Bye.